Hi, I'm Abby from RTINGS.com. Today we'll be reviewing the glorious Model I. We'll be evaluating it on our standardized test bench to see how it performs and if you should buy it. The glorious Model I is the latest entry in Glorious's lineup of lightweight gaming mice. Unlike the previous entries, the Model O and the Model D, the Model I is designed to handle a variety of different game genres. It shares a similar shape to other popular multi-genre mice like the Logitech G502 or the Razer Basilisk series. Unlike those mice, which are quite heavy, this mouse is designed to be as lightweight as possible. It's similar to the Model O and Model D with honeycomb cutouts on its palm rest. It has an ergonomic right-handed shape with a thumb rest, and there are 4 side buttons on the left side and 2 dedicated CPI buttons behind the scroll wheel. There's also an RGB lighting zone in the scroll wheel and 2 thin lighting strips along either side. Now we'll look at the tests. Let's start with the weight. With a lighter mouse, you can make faster movements. This can give you an advantage in reaction-based games and first-person shooters. On the other hand, you might prefer a heavier, more comfortable mouse for other genres. This mouse clocks in at 71 grams, which isn't quite as lightweight as some of the more recent releases on the market that weigh as little as 50 grams. However, it's considerably lighter than most other multi-genre mice, which typically weigh between 100 and 150 grams. Good build quality is important for the overall longevity of your mouse and can also play a role in how comfortable it is to use. Overall, this mouse feels sturdy and well built with no loose or rattling parts. However, the shell does make some noticeable creaking noises when you apply pressure to it, and there's some minor flex on the bottom plate. There's also a small amount of side-to-side wobble in the left and right click buttons, but none of these minor issues are noticeable during regular use. A good cable is a key element for any wired gaming mouse. Rubber cables are flexible, but they can often feel cheap. Braided cables tend to be the most resistant to wear, but they aren't very flexible. On the other hand, paracord-like cables are typically the most flexible and offer the least drag on mouse pads and desks. The glorious Model I has the same paracord-like cable as the other recent glorious releases. It's very lightweight and flexible, and it glides nicely across desks. Unfortunately, it does keep some kinks from its packaging. Moving on to the feet. The shape, location, thickness, and material of these feet contribute to how your mouse feels when you move it across your mouse pad or desk. There are 6 small feet that supply a very smooth gliding experience on mouse pads and desks. They're also a bit thicker than average, which is a plus. Unfortunately, some of the feet have sharp corners, which can cause a bit more resistance on softer mouse pads compared to feet with fully rounded edges. The glorious Model I has a comfortable right-handed shape with a thumb rest on the left. It's well suited for a palm or claw grip for medium, large, or extra large sized hands. Due to the mouse's larger size, it isn't a good fit for small hands with any grip type. It's also important to note that Glorious has released smaller versions of both the Model O and the Model D after their launch. These are known as the Model O- and the Model D- respectively. With that said, it's possible that Glorious will continue this trend and release a Model I- in the future. The sensor is the essential part of your mouse. It's responsible for translating your movements into the cursor movements you see on screen. First up, CPI, or DPI, stands for counts per inch and relates to the sensitivity of your mouse. A wide CPI range with precise adjustment steps is important. Everyone has different sensitivity preferences, but most gamers prefer CPI settings between 100 and 4000. The CPI range on this mouse is extremely wide, and you can adjust it using the companion software by steps of 50. Next, liftoff distance. A high liftoff distance means you have to lift your mouse up higher for it to stop tracking. A lower liftoff distance means your sensor stops tracking sooner when you lift and begin moving your mouse. The minimum liftoff distance is very low, and you can choose between a 1mm or 2mm setting in the software. This is helpful if you have a smaller mouse pad or play on low CPI sensitivity settings, as you won't have to worry about the sensor picking up unwanted movement when you lift and reposition your mouse. Polling rate is measured in hertz and dictates how often the sensor reports its position to your computer. Typically, you'll want to use the highest polling rate possible, as higher values result in smoother cursor movements. This mouse supports polling rates up to 1000 Hz. This is the current standard for gaming mice and results in smooth cursor movements in-game. Click latency is a measure of how long it takes for your mouse click to be registered by your computer once you click it. A lower click latency can play a crucial role in how responsive your gaming experience feels, as any millisecond can make the difference between winning and losing. This mouse has excellent click latency. It's suitable for any gaming genre, including fast-paced competitive games. This mouse has a total of 9 buttons, including 4 side buttons. The left and right click buttons use proprietary Glorious switches rated for 80 million clicks. There are also 2 buttons behind the scroll wheel that control CPI settings by default, but you can rebind any of them using the companion software. The side button that's furthest forward and the button that's furthest towards the back are held in with magnets. You can replace either of these with an alternative button-shaped piece or a flat piece that disables the button if you prefer. Note that these buttons are quite difficult to remove, so you won't have to worry about them coming loose during gameplay. It's easiest to use a small plastic tool when you want to pop them out. Moving on to software. Robust companion software can be helpful for customizing sensor specifics, button mapping, and adjusting RGB lighting. But not all gamers will see it as necessary, and some mice have simple customization controls directly on them. The Glorious core software is straightforward and easy to use. It's clean looking and easy to program macros, reprogram buttons, and customize the RGB lighting settings. You can also adjust certain sensor settings, including the liftoff distance and debounce time. So this brings us to the main question: should you buy this mouse? The Glorious Model I is an excellent lightweight gaming mouse with a comfortable ergonomic shape, very solid build quality, and plenty of customizable buttons. However, it isn't quite as feature-rich as more established multi-genre mice like the Logitech G502 or the Razer Basilisk series. Most notably, the scroll wheel on this mouse lacks a free scrolling mode, and it doesn't have left and right tilt functions for horizontal scrolling. These features are useful for navigating websites and documents quickly, and they're a helpful addition if you'll also be using your mouse for productivity work and everyday browsing. That said, you won't miss these features if you'll only be using this mouse for gaming. Altogether, it takes an alternative approach to the multi-genre gaming mouse formula. It's a great choice if you're looking for a modern, lightweight mouse that's versatile enough to handle a wide range of games. If you're interested in a wireless alternative that applies a similar approach to the multi-genre design, check out the newly released SteelSeries Aerox 5 Wireless. Impressively, it weighs only a few grams more than this mouse, despite adding a rechargeable battery and wireless connectivity. However, its sensor performance isn't quite as good, and it doesn't have a thumb rest.